Damage over time is not as effective as it used to be. This isn't a dot, but you know the damage ticks as you stand in the ult. A lot of people prefer instant DPS like Dragon Leap, Meteor, Dawnbreaker in the meta that we have today. And Dragonknight Standard just doesn't cut it. It costs too much. The damage is very low. The healing debuff is now 30% as opposed to 50%. And I really do feel like ultimates need to be completely, different from the major and minor, buff system. They should have completely different buffs and debuffs that separate them from regular abilities. So Dragonknight Standard definitely needs to be looked at. Fiery Grip, this is supposed to be the DK's gap closer. There's a few problems with this, in my opinion. The problem is you're giving your opponent CC immunity as soon as you cast Fiery Grip. Because you close into them. Usually what a lot of PvP players will do is they'll close into their opponent and they'll CC them. For example, a Nightblade will ambush into a Fear. Sorcerers who are playing from a distance, they don't really have to do that, but they'll still try to hit you with a Crystal Frag or streak through you. Almost all the stamina builds involve gap closing and then uppercutting or even invasion, which is going to CC them. A lot of people want to break the gap and then CC their opponent so that they can DPS them, and that's usually how PvP is played. I mean, there's different builds and stuff that play differently, but the problem with Fire Grip is once you hit them with Fire Grip, you pull them to you or you pull yourself to them, but now you give them CC immunity. So it's kind of counterproductive in that sense, and it's also very unreliable, the fact that there's a chance that you'll be pulled to them or they'll be pulled to you, and it's very unpredictable at times. Also, it can be dodged, and when it's dodged, it literally does nothing. Like it becomes wasted. And when I say dodge, it doesn't have to be dodge rolled. It can be dodged with mischance. It can be reflected with the one hand and shield reflect, or the DK reflect, or the Templar Dark Eclipse. So there's a lot of counters to this ability, and it's just, even the ability itself is not worth it. Now the morphs, one of them gives you longer range and reduced cost. That's actually a decent morph. The other one gives you 20% increased damage on your next attack. Now this is not bad, but at the same time, DKs don't really have too much that they can work with regarding empowering chains, because let's say you want to leap someone after you pull them in, you cast your leap, but your leap is not going to have the CC effect on it, or your uppercut if you're a stamina DK. Even though we're focusing on Magicka DK, a lot of the times when you pull them in, that extra 20% damage is almost wasted just because of the fact that if you're using any ability with a CC involved, it's not worth it. You're not going to get the CC because you're giving them free CC immunity. I believe this is one of the only CCs in the game that doesn't truly CC your opponent, but gives them instant CC immunity. Now, Unstable Flame, it's pretty good. Well, Searing Strike. Unstable Flame is a stamina morph. It's really good. Burning Embers is a Magicka morph. I do think Burning Embers deserves somewhat of a either a different morph or more damage. Now, the reason I want to point something out really quickly. Currently, in the gameplay that we have on ESO, the PvP is very fast-paced. It's all about instant DPS. It's all about just, high damage, high max stamina, high max magic, high spell damage. All about just min-maxing your damage to a really high factor, to the point where you're killing your opponents very fast, because resource management is too slow of a playstyle to fit in the meta that we have today. So dots become very ineffective. Now, this is not even mentioning the fact that purge and cleanses and exist in the game, so dots become even less reliable. And then you have a CP tree that reduces incoming dot damage. All that comes into play, but I believe that things like Burning Embers are too slow. You have to wait until the end of the duration for the heal to go off to benefit from the heal, and it's just a very, very slow ability. And it used to be good back when PvP was a little bit slower and fights didn't end as quick as they did, and that's before 1.6. But even with 1.7, 1.8, even though they did add the extra damage reduction, the fights are still ending pretty quickly in an open world scenario, to the point where, and in some cases they take a long time, but in an open world scenario, the fights usually are decided rather quickly, and a slow ability like Burning Embers just doesn't cut it anymore. You really usually don't benefit from the heal, and the heal isn't as effective because by the time you get the heal, either your opponent is dead or you've already won the fight. It doesn't work. It's too slow paced in my opinion, and you don't find a lot of magic DKs even using dots because of things like cleanse and purge spam. Now, Fiery Breath, I don't want to speak too much about stability. It's fine in some cases. Again, it's a dot, and again, you know, the dot game is just not as good as it used to be because of cleanse, because of purge, because of fast-paced. Just people want instant DPS in their builds, and that's what works nowadays. So I'm not even going to cover too much. It kind of has the same issues that Searing Strike has. Now, Lava Whip. I'm not going to cover like Stamina Whip. Like, I know that's something a lot of Stamina DKs are requesting, and you know, I'm completely fine with Stamina DKs getting a Stamina Whip, but I feel like they should focus on making the Magicka DKs effective first before they even think about doing stuff like that, because then you'll make the Stamina DK look a lot better than the Magic DK, and you'll force more Magic DKs to switch to Stamina DK if you don't fix the Magic DK before you give Stamina DKs a Lava Whip. Now, Lava Whip itself, in my opinion, suffers from a few things. The DK class in general, you know, across the board suffers from a few things regarding how damage is dealt. I'm going to go through that towards the end of this video regarding the CP system, but Lava Whip just doesn't compete with some of the things like Surprise Attack, Crystal Fragments, Biting Jabs. It can get high damage, but you have to invest a lot into Flame Lash or into Molten Whip to get that damage that you want. And I just feel like the damage is always lacking regarding, you know, the whip. It just doesn't feel like it hits hard. And I know Magicka builds typically don't hit as hard as Stamina builds because of the CP system, because of how, you know, you can stack Magicka. I mean, you can easily stack weapon damage with Stamina Regen compared to magic damage and Magicka Recovery. Now that's arguable, but usually a lot of the Stamina builds are hitting a lot harder than Magicka builds. So Flame Lash is going to hit weaker than usual. But it still, you know, it still lacks, I feel like, some DPS, and I feel like they should buff the whip to hit a little bit harder than it already does. Inferno, I don't even want to go over, as you can see, I never really played with this ability at all. I guess it's a PvE ability, but I don't really see DKs even using it in PvE. People do just use Mage Light. This ability needs to just be scrapped, and you need to give us something else, honestly. You need to give us something else over here. I don't like Inferno. As for the passives on the Ardent Flame, they're fine. I don't have any problems with them. Let's go into Draconic Power. Now over here, we have Dragon Leap. Dragon Leap is a very, very good ultimate for Stamina DK. And because of the fact that it's physical damage. I have a big problem with ultimates having specific damage modifiers. It wasn't as big of an issue before the CP system, but it is somewhat of an issue now. When you have an ultimate that goes based off of physical damage, both morphs go based off of physical damage, the only way you can buff this ultimate through your CP system is by putting points into increasing your physical damage. Now, you don't want to do that as a Magicka DK. It's just not beneficial. You'd rather put your points into Thaumaturge or into Elemental Expert. So, in my opinion, you shouldn't have physical damage. You shouldn't have, magical damage in your ultimates. There's some abilities, like for example, it doesn't just apply to Magicka builds. Stamina Nightblades, who use Killer's Blade, the Stamina Execute. Their execute is based off of magic damage. So the only way they can increase that execute is by putting points into Thaumaturge in their CP, and that's magic damage. So it's not beneficial to have points into increasing your magic damage because your execute is based off of Magicka. It should just be that if the ability costs Magicka, it does magic damage. If the ability costs Stamina, it does physical damage. And as far as ultimates should just be completely just different from that. Ultimates should not have any sort of physical or magic, or just make ultimates a completely different, damage modifier. Like just launch yourself at an enemy, dealing 5,684 ultimate damage, and then maybe put an ult increasing modifier in the CP system, just to make the CP system a little more complex. But by having physical and magical damage in your ultimates, you force players to play certain roles because of that. Dragon Leap is the strongest ultimate currently in the game for stamina builds, which is the DK. It's, in my opinion, a stamina DK using the Leap. Leap is the strongest ultimate in the game currently. As far as cost, as far as damage, as far as efficiency, it is the strongest ultimate because it's the only ultimate that is based off of physical damage. Spiked armor is good. Nothing wrong with that. I just wish, you know, the Nightblades get major ward and major resolve through a passive, and they can pretty much keep that up at all times. And Nightblades are not even supposed to be the tanky class, but they have that. I feel like DK should just have a passive that once they activate like a certain ability, like maybe when they activate a Draconic ability, they get major and major resolve and major ward, like how Nightblades have it. I mean, DK is supposed to be the tankier class, so they typically have to, you know, put more points. I mean, they have to actually sacrifice a slot to get major ward and major resolve, when Nightblades just have to cast any of their basic abilities like surprise attack or fear. They have a lot of abilities that they use that just give them major ward and resolve, and DKs have to use an ability. So that's, I think this should be implemented somewhere in a passive, in my opinion. Dark Talons. So Dark Talons, let's get into this right here. I have a huge issue with Dark Talons. Let me just move myself over here because I'm blocking out some of the words. So let's read this together really quickly. Just call forth talons from the ground to deal 797 physical damage and immobilize nearby enemies for 4 seconds. While enemies are held, an ally can activate an impale to deal 2,488 magic damage. Now let's morph this really quickly because I know Birding Talons has the. You know what? This is perfect, man. This is perfect. This ability by itself is going to show you exactly why the DK class is suffering. We're dealing, this one ability deals physical damage, it deals flame damage, and it can also deal magic damage. So you're confusing a lot of DKs here. What are we supposed to do here? When we have an ability, it's a very staple ability to DKs. A lot of DKs use talents. It deals physical, magical, and flame damage. So how do you want us to spread our CP across that in an efficient way? 3 types of damage in one ability. That doesn't work anymore because of the fact that the CP system, you know, has bonuses, really big bonuses to increasing, you know, flame or physical or magic. Like you can increase one to up to 25%, but people don't have enough CP to increase all 3 to a reasonable number. So it's a perfect explanation. It's a perfect example of why the DK class suffers, and it's not just this ability. It's not just this ability. Talons is based off of physical damage. Everything here is based off of flame damage. Inhale is does magic damage as the explosion. And then if you use anything outside of the class skill line, like Soul Strike, Dawnbreaker, Detonation, that's all magic damage. So you got physical, you got magic, and you got a physical ultimate, you got physical root, you got magic coming in from Inhale and other abilities, and then you got flame damage coming in from your just bread and butter DPS. So if you're wondering why you're not hitting as hard on your DK as any other class, it's because you're spreading out your CP tremendously. Now, Magicka builds already spread out their CP harder than stamina builds, and some stamina builds do suffer from, you know, Magicka-based stamina abilities that do magic damage, like the Nightblade with Killer's Blade. But the DK class completely just has magic, physical, and flame damage just built into their class across the board. In my opinion, like, either you fix this or you give DKs... an idea right here. An idea. You take out Inferno. You give us a spell damage buff. You know how sorcerers have crit surge? They get 20% extra spell damage or weapon damage, and then their crits heal them, right? How about DKs? Think with me for a second. How about DKs get an ability that gives them 20% spell damage and turns all of their abilities, everything, ultimate, anything out into fire damage? Everything. Let's call it Inferno because it's a proper name for the ability. Let's call the ability Inferno. And it gives you 20% spell damage for 20 seconds. And it makes any damage that you put out turn into fire damage. That sounds like a pretty good idea in my opinion. You would give DKs a spell damage boost without having to go into the Mage's Guild skill line. And you turn the damage into fire damage, which is what they excel at. Dragon Blood. This ability, okay, it used to be one of the strongest abilities, one of the strongest heals. The problem is, when you have a heal nerf on a percentage, it becomes too much. You're healing 33% of your missing health, and you're getting health recovery, which is, I don't really care about health recovery anyways, but that 33% gets cut in half, so really you're just healing 16% of your missing health, which is sometimes very low, considering, like I said, we're in a fast-paced environment, so a lot of people are going to be running around anywhere from 20 to 25k health. Some people will bump it up to 26, 27, 28, but no one's going to really run around with so much health unless they're a tank. But then do you just force DKs to be tanks? Can they not be DPS healers in their own unique way? They used to be able to do that, so why can't they now? Dragon Blood, it doesn't heal enough. You can't cut the healing of an ability that doesn't even have it heals 33% of missing health. It should just do that. If it just healed 33% and it wasn't cut, it would be a strong ability. It would give DKs decent heals, and it wouldn't force them into using Resto Staff. And it would open up possibilities for DK builds, both Magicka and Stamina. Vigor and Rally are much better heals for Stamina DK. They don't have to worry about Dragon Blood. Now DKs, a lot of DKs nowadays, they don't even use Dragon Blood. They use Blessing and Restoration, which is a Resto skill. So our best heal is outmatched by a Resto heal, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Another problem I have with this ability is it gives you 20%, Green Dragon Blood, the popular morph, gives you 20% health and stamina recovery. Now my issue is, let me show you something. Let me just put these points into medical use. Now my potions, I actually do not have a potion. Actually, this one gives you Magicka back. I don't have a potion that's giving me stamina recovery right now, but I can still show you it through the Magicka recovery portion of this. Let's assume this immovability potion gave me stamina back, right? My Magicka recovery is boosted by 20% for 47.6 seconds. That's more than the 45-second cooldown. So a lot of people are using tri-stat potions in PvP, so they're getting health, stamina, and Magicka recovery for over 45 seconds. So it's over the cooldown. So your potion makes Green Dragon Blood completely useless, because if you have the passive to increase your potion time, you're gonna have the stamina recovery boost at all times, and it's gonna be a useless, a useless bonus to have with the Green Dragon Blood, because you're gonna have the stamina recovery up at all times. Honestly, I'd be happy if Green Dragon Blood gave you 10% stamina recovery. Like give us minor fortitude, 10%. That way the 10% stacks with the 20% from the potions, and now you have a total of 30%. So it actually works that way. This way, it's not working. It's conflicting with the potion. Or give it a maybe just make it to where when you cast Green Dragon Blood, you get stamina back. That way DKs can truly be the better tanks. Because right now, Templars and even Nightblades, and heck, even Magical Sorcerers who are supposed to be Glass Cannon, are better tanks than DKs. So maybe instead of giving us the stamina recovery, maybe just give us a fixed amount of stamina back, or a percentage of our stamina back. That would be pretty nice, in my opinion. Now this ability, 8% extra healing. I mean, a lot of people just use this just because, like I said, it doesn't stack with the, it doesn't, conflict with the potion. But I don't really have a problem with coagulating. Reflective Scales. It's a very strong ability. Not much to say about it. Both morphs are nice. The fact that it's only 4 projectiles is a little meh, because of the fact that it only really comes into place when a DK is outnumbered by like 5 people all shooting projectiles at them, at him or her. I don't judge. But what I'm saying is, why? Okay, the way I'm looking at this is, if you have 20 people against one person, that one person is gonna lose. 99.9% of the time. They're going to lose. So why do you have to cripple them even more? I guarantee you those 20 people, if they see reflective scales, they will use anything but a projectile against that DK, and they will still take the DK out. The way... Okay, here's my theory behind this. Think with me for a second. Think with me just for a second. A Nightblade turns the corner, and there are a lot of people about to, you know, hit this Nightblade. He goes in a cloak, he avoids all the damage. Sorcerer puts up a shield, streaks out of the way. Now, Templar suffers the same fate as a DK. Usually they're going to go down. What I'm trying to say is DKs don't need an escape ability. They never had an escape. Even I said that DKs need an escape ability. They don't really need an escape ability. They never had one. They were still good before they had one. And Templars were also good before they had an escape ability. Mistform was nerfed. And it kind of deserved to be nerfed. The way it was working before was a little not right. But I never really played as a vampire DK anyways. I did for a little bit, but for the majority of my playtime, it was without vampirism. DKs don't need an escape ability. They need the ability to stand their ground. That's what they're designed for. They need the ability to stand their ground. And I'm not trying to make Magicka DKs able to take on so many people and just be a pain in the ass, because that's how they used to be back then. It's a different game nowadays. A lot of people have non-reflectable projectiles. A lot of people have non-reflectable abilities, and a lot of people are a lot smarter nowadays. A lot of people, they'll get out of your standard. If they see reflect, they're not going to cast a projectile. Players are a lot smarter nowadays, so you're not going to have that issue where a DK is just standing there reflecting and taking on 30 people because they're all shooting their reflect. Now, this is not a huge deal. I would like to see the projectile limit removed, or up to 6, 7, or 8. That make it a little bit better. And I think it doesn't make sense to cripple someone who's already being beaten on by that many people. DKs need to be able to stand their ground, and this would, you know, help them. Also, the ability is kind of bugged. I get hit through my reflect plenty of times, and it needs to be looked at. I've even posted video evidence and streamed me getting hit with projectiles way after I put up my skills. Inhale. Now, Inhale, like I said, it has a bit of an issue because it's the explosion deals magic damage. Well, now it deals flame damage. This was changed, I believe. But it shouldn't have a limit of 3 players that it sucks the health out of. In my opinion, it should be 6. The cap, like... I know there might not be a cap in the future, but you want to cap an ability like this to at least 6. Sap Essence is capped at 6. And this is capped at 3, and it doesn't really make sense. Especially considering the fact that the Magicka DK healing is kind of out of whack because of how poor Dragon Blood is. It should be capped at 6. And the explosion that happens after 2.5 seconds should hit a lot harder, considering the fact that it's going to go off in 2.5 seconds. Now, if it was an instant explosion, the damage is fine, but the explosion damage is a little weak and kind of underwhelming, considering it goes off after 2.5 seconds. Either make the damage hit harder or make the explosion instant. I would prefer the damage to hit harder, not make the explosion instant. That way it's a unique ability and it's not just like a spammable AoE. There's that. Iron Skin. Now these passives are completely fine in my opinion. They're good. I don't have a problem with these. Earthen Heart. Magma Armor. You got Corrosive Armor. So again, right here, we're going back to the stamina favoritism. Why do we have an ultimate that ignores 100% of physical resistance? Why not physical and spell resistance? We could just go the extra step and make this. You should never make ultimates specific to Magicka or stamina. It should just be across the board. That's how ultimate should work. You got this ultimate is specifically made for stamina DKs, and I don't believe that's how it should be. It should be physical and magical resistance. And it'd be a fine ultimate if it had that. Now this one is group based. It's fine. It's not, whatever. I don't really use this. I would definitely use corrosive. I don't play in groups, but I mean, magma armor. It's a decent ability in certain cases. Can make you a really good tank for about 9 seconds. So it's not bad at all. But again, this should be physical and spell resistance, not just physical. Stone Fist costs way too much and does way too little. Let me fix that. The stun is really good. The length of the stun on Stone Fist is actually really nice. I believe it's 3 seconds. It used to be 4 seconds. Let me morph this. Actually, let me look at the morphs really quickly, then I'll morph it. The stun duration is fine, but the damage is really, really low. Obsidian Shard, considering how much it costs, it should hit a lot harder. Because right now it's really, really outplayed by Petrify. Petrify is a much better preferred, CC that DKs have, because Petrify goes through dodge, it's instant, goes through block. It costs a lot less. It's just more reliable in my opinion. Stonefish should hit a lot harder. It should really, really just really hit someone. And the damage needs to be buffed. And physical damage. Let's take out physical damage and let's put damage. Just damage. Can we make it just to where it just scales off of make it not physical. That's all I'm asking. This is a Magicka ability that scales off of max magic and spell damage, but it's physical damage. That's an issue right there. We should make it. And the heal needs to be buffed as well. The heal needs to be buffed. Stone Giant. Stone Giant needs to be a little different. In my opinion, here this is a perfect ability to have a Magicka morph and a Stamina morph. Why don't you completely remove the range on Stone Giant and cut the cost, make it Stamina, and make it to where it's like you turn your fist into stone and you punch someone in the face. That'd be pretty cool for a Stamina DK. You knock them down on the floor with the punch. And then Obsidian Shard needs to hit harder, needs to do Magicka damage if it's going to be a Magicka-based build ability, and the heal needs to be a little bit higher. Stone Giant should just really be a Stamina morph. Let me see how the stun is. The stun is 3 seconds. Yeah, they nerfed the stun down from 3. It used to be 4.5 seconds. Now it's 3 seconds. But Fear is still 4.5 seconds. But Fear has been asked to be nerfed multiple times. No one ever complained about Stonefist, so I don't know why they dropped Stonefist from 4.5 to 3. That doesn't make any sense to me. Considering it's dodgeable, blockable, all that good stuff. Molten Weapons. Now, this is a very popular ability for ganking builds, or just sit in the back and heavy attack builds. This needs to be looked at and adjusted a little bit. You have a lot of potential with this ability, but they're not taking they're forcing you to play a very specific role with this, and that's the gank DK playstyle. That's where this ability shines. Increase the duration and have it affect drop it from 40% to 20%. Have it affect all your abilities. Make it a true. Okay, make it a unique execute is what I'm trying to say. Charging a heavy attack, like I said, this game is very fast paced nowadays. So charging heavy attack is never a really good idea. It's good if you know you're gonna land it, but it's a slow paced playstyle and it works in very specific environments like ganking DKs. But how about instead of the whole heavy attack stuff, how about you make it to where it's a self buff? Once you have the buff active, if your opponent is below 50% health, all your abilities will start scaling and doing more damage. Let's just say 20% more damage. Or something like that. Or it scales, the lower their health is, the more you damage your abilities do. Make it to where it just affects DK abilities. So it encourages people to use whip and stuff like that. And it won't really... Here's the thing, fellas. It's very important that they buff Magicka DKs without buffing Stamina DKs. You don't want to make Stamina DKs too powerful. So you gotta understand, a lot of Stamina DKs don't use DK abilities. So if you buff DK abilities and make the buffs affect DK abilities, you're not really buffing Stamina DK while you're still buffing the Magicka DK. At the same time, you don't want to buff the Magicka DK too much in a small scale or 1v1 situation, but you want to buff it in a situation where the DK has to take on multiple opponents or is being focused on by multiple opponents. That way, you don't tip the scales too much in the 1v1 situation, but you still make things balanced in the open world situation where there's a chance you can get outnumbered. So there's definitely a lot of things that can be done with this ability, and I think they need to re-look at that. It's mainly used by a very particular playstyle. Obsidian Shield. Now this is a very good ability, but I do believe the shield's a little too small. The shield's a little too small. Let's see. 1.8k damage shield. Now, that's like cut in half, right? Like, I mean, right now I'm not spec'd out or anything, so I'm missing some gear. Usually the shield ends up being like, what, 3k? That's too small of a shield. This shield, by the way, used to be as big as Hardened Ward. The Sorcerer's Hardened Ward, because it scaled off health. How about you make this shield scale off of Magicka? Because in my opinion, Stam DKs don't need a shield. They don't need a shield. Like, they can still use this ability for the extra healing and for the stamina return that Earthen Heart gives you, but they don't need a huge shield. How about you make Igneous Shield scale off of max Magicka? That way, Magicka DKs can have a decent sized shield that competes with, you know, Sorcerer. Fragmented Shield, you need to bump up the damage. It's definitely not the preferred choice ever. It used to be back in the day, but that was butchered. You got to look at this. You got to look at this. You got to rework them. This whole ability needs to be reworked. That's all I'm going to say. Fragmented Shield needs to be completely looked at and changed up. Yeah, it needs to be looked at, guys. This is like Igneous is a bigger shield, and it does way more than just do like 500 damage back. That's nothing. Petrify, not much I can say about it. It's a really strong ability. Shattering Rocks kind of sucks. The AoE damage is very small. It's very small, and it doesn't do enough damage. Shattering Rock morph needs to be looked at. Everyone goes with Fossilize, so definitely Shattering Rocks needs to be looked at. But it's a strong ability regardless. Fossilize is a really good ability. Petrify, it's a really good ability. You want to know something? You want to know how do you want to know how to know if a morph sucks? If a morph of an ability sucks? And this usually works on a lot of abilities. What do you call this ability? Not Obsidian Shield. No one calls it Obsidian Shield. Majority of the people call it Igneous Shield because that's the morph that everyone picks. So people call this ability Igneous Shield. That means this morph sucks. I didn't call this Petrify. I called this Fossilize. Some people call it Petrify. I don't care. I called this Fossilize because the other morph sucks. So if you call an ability by one morph and everyone refers to that ability by one morph, then the other morph usually sucks. I mean, before Green Dragonblood didn't mess up with the potions, everyone called this Green Dragonblood. No one called it Coagulating. No one even really used Coagulating. A few people did. That's basically what it came down to. Like, you'd call an ability by the morph. A lot of times, Petrify was called Fossilize. I mean, people just refer to it as Fossilize because no one used Shattering Rocks. No one refers to it as Shattering Rocks. That means Shattering Rocks needs to be looked at. Ashcloud. Now, this used to be one of the best DK abilities in the game. It no longer is. I don't... The damage is really bad. The damage is really bad, and... let me just be blunt. You need to give us 20% dodge chance while we're standing inside this thing. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. And you know what? You know why that won't give us 20% dodge chance? Because a stamina DK already has shuffle. A lot of stamina DKs will use shuffle from the medium armor skill line to get their dodge chance. Magicka DKs, they can't afford to use shuffle. They can't afford to get that dodge chance. How about if you're standing inside Eruption or if you're standing inside Cinderstorm, you get 20% dodge chance. Plain and simple. That's all you gotta do. And this ability will start finding its place on DK, Magicka DK, builds, aside from people who are trying to block and score you. So give us a 20% dodge chance. That's it. Now over here, Battle Roar could be buffed up just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's really, really good. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of times it doesn't scale It doesn't scale well because usually you're putting a lot of points into one thing, and you know what? I'm not even gonna, if you make the other changes, Battle Roar is completely fine. Right now it's lacking in some situations. Mainly I would like a bigger heal out of Battle Roar. A bigger heal would be nice. Because there's multiple times where you just get killed right after you cast an ultimate and you thought you got a heal, but a lot of people's health is really low, so you're not really getting that much of a heal out of it. Plus, your Battle Royale heal gets cut in half because of the heal debuff. I mean, the heal, the 50% less healing. The 50% less healing should not affect abilities like Battle War. Like I said, it's percentage based. It's not a solid number, so it shouldn't affect abilities like Battle War. That's my biggest concern with Battle War. Mountain's Blessing is really good. Everything else is really good. So, like I said, guys, I'm going to go through the champion system really quickly just to show you some things. We got an issue here where, as a DK, you got to put points into Elemental Expert and Thaumaturge to boost up what you got to do. And then if you want your Dragon Leap to hit worth a damn, and you want your Talon's initial damage to hit, you also got to put points into Mighty, increasing physical damage. Because, like I said, this is a good example. Burning Talons, it does physical damage, it does fire damage, and it does magic damage. All three. Why? That make when you got to spread out all your points, you can't focus on one thing and you won't perform well. On my Stamina Nightblade, I just put everything into physical damage. I don't got to worry. Stamina DK, physical damage. Don't got to worry. Don't got to worry at all. That's my concern right there. It's just you got to make things equalized. When you got a class that just has things all over the place. Now DK is not the only class that suffers from that, but it's the one that suffers the most from it. So that's all I really want to say, guys. Like, again, dynamic ulti gen would be really nice to have, but I think ZeniMax is pretty adamant about just keeping the current ultimate system. But if they ever change it, dynamic ulti will also help DKs. But a DK does not need mobility. It needs the ability to stand its ground better than the other classes. Because a Nightblade currently and a Sorcerer currently can stand their ground better than a DK, but not just stand their ground. They can also escape better than a DK can. Heck, even Templars can stand their ground better than a DK. And escape better than a DK. Well, the escape part, yes, because yes and no. You'd have to use Purge on a DK to be able to escape like a Magicka Templar can. But DKs have to be the best at standing their ground. They don't have to be able to escape. Nightblades and Sorcerers do that really well. Templars are really good at healing. Stamina Templars, they have some faults in them, but they have really good damage, and they can also escape because of their stamina build. But DKs need to be able to stand their ground, and that will come with extra damage, with dodge chance, and with somewhat of a passive for armor and spell resistance that competes with the Nightblade passive. So I know this was a very long video, guys, but I wanted to share my concerns and some details regarding the Magicka DK class. So if you have any questions or if you feel like I missed something or you want to comment, make sure you comment below. Right now I'm live on Twitch, but I'm recording this for YouTube purposes, and I'll be posting this very soon. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, comment below, and I'm eager to discuss with you guys this class and just see what we can come to terms with regarding the DK class. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more Elder Scrolls Online content, and I will see you soon.